while, but I
Start
can't
that.
adjust to it.
Yes. All right. So where are you
Hey,
first of all?
man.
Do you work from home these days? Do you have an office or where are you?
No, I mean, I share an office. I don't share an office. North Castle, my former firm, is here, and I keep an office with them.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And
So,
is that in the city still?
yeah. On 27th and 6th. It's awesome. I walk to work. It's perfect. Couldn't be better.
Terrific, terrific. Hey, just so I know, how are you on time so I can pace for questions and other stuff like that? I want to be respectful.
Let me check. About like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, probably.
Yep, cool. Anything close to an hour, we should be good to go on
Okay,
this.
perfect.
Yeah. I'll do intros, outros later, just so you know to catch it up. Really, our newsletter, our digital magazine has become the primary for Midlife Mail right now.
Yep.
And the feature that we are running every week with a new prolific middle-aged guy, if you will, is called How I See It. And it's our Esquire's like version of what I've learned. It's your perspective on how you see different things in life and fitness and health and family and all these things that we're kind of into. So there's no wrong answers on anything. And it's no one topic. It's just kind of like what we did the last time. We'll just have a conversation and we'll turn it into something even better.
Got it. And you turn it into prose, or you publish the audio?
So basically, a little bit of both. So what we will do is we'll turn it typically into, you know, how Jay Galluzzo sees it. The 15 top things. It'll be on fitness and on family and on wealth and on life and on kids. It could be whatever you're talking about. We'll turn it into kind of this list of, your top statements that are on that.
Okay.
And then the full
Perfect.
conversation we drop into two things. One, we'll turn it into a podcast, and then the third thing is we take the kind of the full conversation, kind of raw and unedited, and I leave it in with our inner circle group. These are my, 60, 70, 80 guys. It keeps growing, this membership community. And they like this little banter at the beginning. So they'll listen to this part about how we know each other, where you are,
Okay.
what we're going to do. Because there's always this kind of like feeling like everybody knows one another, and like we never get to see, the peel back the curtain, the Wizard of Oz thing. It's like, no, like, okay, we haven't really talked in a couple of years. We got a lot of catching
Yeah.
up to do. Life and everything has changed. So we give those guys kind of a little bit more of a peel back of the curtain.
Nice. Well, again, I get my Greg updates every day. I got a full blown from Ciano. I get jealous, man. He's my boyfriend, not yours.
He's a good dude. So yesterday, what was it? He flew in for his quick little 24-hour. You probably got the download on some of it already. Flew in for Gabrielle's Forever Strong. We had a quick dinner and then we did a quick 3 mile ruck the next morning at 7 a.m. so he could get there at 9 and
Yeah.
fly out by like 3 in the afternoon. He's an animal, man. He really is.
He's the best. We've enjoyed, we're doing stuff together. But you guys did 29 together, right?
Yeah, so we did. So what happened was, this will be my fourth year. I'm going to Jackson Hole this year to do it again.
I did Stratton. So you did Tremblant with him.
I did Jackson Hole year one. Basically, me and a buddy, went to do it. Year one, didn't tell anybody really, like we just kind of went out there. What are we getting ourselves into? And did it year one. Really had a disastrous time. Like didn't really train for it specifically. Went out and said we're just going to keep going and finish as quickly as possible. So didn't really meet anybody, didn't sleep, got all jacked up on pickle juice and electrolytes and all kinds of shit. It was not good, like really. And I came home. I'll be quick on this, and I told my wife, I'm like, never doing this again. Like this is a night. I don't get it. Like all these people looked like they were having fun and they met people and they did this. Like I didn't do this right at all. And a couple months after that, it just kept gnawing away at me how poorly I got it. Like I got it done, but did I miss the mark of the whole
Dude.
camaraderie aspect and spirit and community? So I signed up again and we went to Whistler the second year. And I brought my wife And I actually had a strategy and said, I'm going to meet people and I'm going to sleep for 5 or 6 hours and I'm going to have a real meal. I'm going to like try to enjoy this. I don't care if I finish at 35 hours and 59 minutes. And I had an amazing time year two. In year three, we took Ciano, we took 17 people. I had all these people call asking me, what is this all about? Why are you doing this thing? Could we do it too? And the Mark Hodelick at 29 was really great. And he said, look, we'll help out. We'll get you like no like business deal, but like, hey, I want to kind of get some people in. If we can create a group, like I'd love to bring all these people that are asking me, and I think they're perfect for this. So we ended up taking 17 people, and Jay was one of them. A few of my coaching clients, a couple of them brought their wives, my book publisher, a couple of big keynote speakers, Anne from Solid Core, and her like, we had a really, really good group.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. It was I loved it. But I was like you, man. We was just my partner. I pointed his office. My partner John and I, and we trained like, and we went out, and I had a blast for the first 13 laps out of 17 at Stratton. I'm dancing, and we went straight, but like we're talking to people. We made friends, and and I've done marathons, and I bonked of all bonks after 13.
Mm.
Had to hit the medical tent for a while, had to stay there till I could keep food down, and then went, slept, like got back out and finished. But like my last 4 laps were torturous, where if I had just relaxed a little bit and not eaten at every sick, I ate like it was my last at every aid station, like it was my last chance to eat M&Ms.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do it again anytime soon, but if I did, I would do it sort of with different people, do it the right way and all that kind of stuff.
Look, I think all this is about perspective again. Trying something, getting out of our comfort zone, seeing how it goes. For me, it didn't really go that well year one, but I did finish it, which was, hey, the don't quit, force your way through,
Yeah.
get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, I don't want to be that uncomfortable. Can I do it nicer, and be a little kinder to myself and a little less competitive and a little bit friendlier and all of these different things. So it's been interesting how that kind of opens up, and to our conversation too, again, just talking to more people about like there are different perspectives, there's different ways to be a high performer, there's different ways to you know accomplish your goal, if you will, to still maintain a certain standard but to not have to drive yourself into this pain cave all the time.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yes. Well, listen, man, let's you got a lot going on, so let's catch up a little bit here. Um, it's been a minute since you've been on, and you've had a couple of career, I guess, transitions, if you will. I think you've always been a guy who's been able to be involved in a number of different things. And I really just wanted to start out asking you, like, what's been going on in your life the last 3, 5 years, of what you've been involved in, why you've been involved in it. We're in an interesting place in our lives, and a lot of guys struggle with change and transition, and you really seem to be somebody who thrives on that.
No, I appreciate that. It's like what you just said was everything, including the struggle. It's thriving and struggling and being involved in everything, non-traditional path, which I never expected to take, which you and I talked about last time, and where you and I share the similarities. We grew up in environments where like that linear doctor, lawyer, banker path was like pretty set. We could have taken that relatively easily, and we didn't do that. At least I did it in the beginning and then stopped. So I've been lucky now in this world and what's been able to create this kind of, a la carte businesses I can do. I can be an investor, an operator, and an advisor at the same time. It's just a question of how that mix kind of comes together. And then the other stuff, the evolution of life, it's been nothing is linear there. It's been circuitous. It's been a lot of fits and starts. It's been some of those things like I am where I am, and I wish I'd gotten here easier. Some of the stuff we, again, talked about a bunch of years ago. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I want to let you go. Is that interesting also that it kind of doesn't change? A lot of things change, but what doesn't change is like it kind of doesn't get easier. Maybe we get a little better at handling it, a little better at navigating it, but there's always going to be change.
It's so true. It's funny. Like I'm 50, I'm nearly 51. There's a couple of things that have been dramatic over the last few years. The first is how hard I work to maintain my physical state, right? I mean, that's been dramatic. It used to be really easy to have your body perform a certain way. And now it's really a day to day. And I think about it mostly as like flexibility and strength. Never had to worry about that. Now it's every day to keep a strong body, to keep a flexible body. And that's for, no longer because I want to look good on the beach, right? It's because I want to perform on all those sports and be with my kids. So that's one thing that's not consistent. But the other thing is like, it's also consistent. Every pattern, you're like, I'm not going to repeat my patterns. You repeat every single pattern just slightly differently and enough with the experience of the past that there's benefit from pattern repetition as long as you don't repeat it exactly, as long as you don't make all the same what you would call mistakes the next time around, then you're just being your person, right? No one makes a wholesale change at 45 years old. I mean, some people do. It's really hard. Everybody's like, I changed my whole life when I was 45. It's bullshit. It's really hard. You've got a mortgage, you've got children, you've got obligation. You have really hard set stuff. So for me, I just try to, when I'm in one of those moments of change, it's more about just changing the mix of ingredients of those, for professional life, those three things. And in personal life, it's, myself and my hobbies, my relationship, and my kids. And in business, it's investing, advising, and operating.
I love that you brought hobbies into this. It's actually something I wrote down over the weekend to talk a little bit more about in general. A lot of guys let their hobbies go. And then they find themselves in midlife trying to maybe either get them back, maybe, or they're not as good, or they have different hobbies and they're not satisfied with them, anymore. And this came from actually my son's girlfriend's father, which is funny, kind of surreal. It's like my youngest son, who's 18 and graduating this year, is this wonderful girlfriend, and we're friendly with the parents. And the father's a really successful doctor, ENT and surgeon, and he makes guitars on the weekend, like in his spare time. Like his hobby is going into his workshop and building guitars from the ground up. And he's building me one right now. So he was sending me pictures of the work in progress. And like hobbies for guys are rare. We hear about the drinking, we hear about the golf, we hear about the other stuff. But what are some of your hobbies?
Well, I have two, and both of them allow me to connect with my family. And I've tried to say I want to have more. I have two, skiing and playing guitar, and that's it.
Okay.
I don't have time for any others, and they're all around. I evolve both of those, but that's what I do. And both of them allow me to connect with my family in a real way. Skiing with everyone and playing guitar with my oldest son, both allow me to, you can't watch your phone while you're skiing or playing guitar. And both bring me to a state of kind of full-blown relaxation. They're my runner's high, when I'm in those moments. So I hear you say like someone builds guitars, and in my head I'm like, quickly, my first reaction is, I want to do that. Never going to do it. I live in New York City. I don't have a place to build a guitar, and I'm not handy enough to change a light bulb, but I play my guitar every day, and I play with my older son as much as I can. So, and those are my hobbies, and that's where my time and attention and a lot of my disposable income and travel and all those things go.
Mm. I also think there's a confidence to being able to say, I have a hobby or I have two hobbies, and I limit it there and know that too, versus this, I've got to be like, I'm kind of inherently curious. And part of even why I do this is because it allows me to do different things. Like I consider this one of my hobbies still, even though we've turned this into a is larger than I expected it even to be at the beginning, and certainly continuing to grow it. But I still consider when people ask me what I do for fun or what my hobbies are, I'm like, I talk to people. I go to events and I go to experiences and I share what I learned to embrace my curiosity. But I think there's a great confidence in being able to also say, I have one thing, or I have two things that I do, and the rest, because there's a lot of distraction out there too. Had this level, I guess, of discipline and confidence always been a thing, or is it a muscle that you exercise like the same way as any other muscle?
I think some of it's just a function of time. As I'm saying, I have two hobbies. My head's spinning. Well, I love contrast therapy, and I like to read, and I like all these things. But they're not hobbies because I have less time for those things. I still those are part of my daily or weekly life, but they're not things I dive into the way I could. And so it's the discipline is time management, and it's like it's not structured time management. It's just where I sort of go to when I have free time, and it's those two things. And it's not like I'm always able to, like, ski's a great example, right? You're not able to ski all the time, but I'll go home tonight and I'll be messing around on the computer, and I'm going to be sitting on some site looking at things about that. It's very easy to pick up a guitar. And I'm sure one day there'll be some, as I get more free time in my life, I'll pick up more things to do, because I'm inherently curious and inherently practical. Um, and so when I'm able to pick up more things, when that practical valve opens up a little bit, I'm sure I will. But for me, in this current place where I am, two boys and a stepdaughter, essentially, who are teenagers and need both attention and freedom, and are super fun to be around. You have relatively grown kids, like spend a lot of time raising kids so that you can have fun with them, and so I'm in that moment. And so I allocate as much time as I can to having fun with the kids too. Maybe that's a hobby, you know?
The word practical that you just brought in also. And I'm loving that you're throwing this stuff out here. Hobbies, and now it's practical. Is this like what trips? You've seen a lot of businesses, you've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, you've been around a lot of different people. Practical is hard. Is this something you like when you're looking at whether an individual is backable, an entrepreneur, a CEO, somebody to get into your network, your wheelhouse, you've got a new deal, in consulting and who you're around. Like practical is kind of rare. Like this is a lot of what's also is struggling in midlife, is this degree of like, am I too practical? Am I not practical enough? Again, can I flip the switch on all of this stuff? Is what I want impractical, so I should just stay the course, on things? I love that word.
And for what I do, when I've failed, lowercase f, uppercase f, however you define it, when I've strayed from practical, it's been one of the reasons that things don't work. Because most of my businesses are, I say 4-wall or no wall. 4-wall engagement. You come in and you do stuff, right? And when you come in to do stuff in an environment that I'm involved with, if it's not practical, if it's not relatively easy to operate, if it's not replicable, if it's not scalable, if the mistakes aren't correctable, if there aren't if they're less than a gazillion variables, it has to be those things for it to work, right? Someone once said to me, like, the best businesses are a mix of magic and logic, right? So for me, it's magic and practical, because there's no logic in what I do. It's practically making something work, right? Because I'm not a banker. I'm not, coming to logical conclusions as someone who has a more technically cerebral position is. Mine is, how can I make it work? So every mistake that I see is one where I've forgotten that it has to be a practical implementation of something. So it does play, and it's, even, you can get ahead of yourself too. Something, you can fall in love with something and forget about that at 50, at 40, at 30 or 20, the siren song of a great idea. And so, yeah, so I try to, that word is plays more as I, become older, more disciplined, more experience.
Why did you want to do this in the first place? What you do? You started with saying, the easier path, as we both know, or the one that we knew, or that was obvious and quite frankly seemingly practical, was, go be the doctor, go be the lawyer, go be the traditional professional service guy, go to the good school, graduate, take that path. Why do you think you're wired differently?
I was one. I was a lawyer. I was so I graduated law school in '99, and I practiced first at a firm and then at a company until '08. And I wish I could say like I was miserable and that's why I left. I wasn't. I really liked it. I liked all of it. I just had like an idea and something inside of me that made me want to do something different with different people. And so I left, actually first to do something else that then led me to start a fitness business. And then once you start something in a space that you like, it's either you get the itch for one or the other. You're either always going to be an entrepreneur, I think, or you're always going to be in the space where you did your thing, right? And so I loved entrepreneurship, but earlier we were talking about, walking up a mountain 17 times. I don't know that I need to do that again,
Mm.
right? I might, and I have again, but I loved being in the space. I knew once I was in the space, the wellness space, I didn't want to leave, and I've never left. That social engagement, that community engagement, that doing stuff that makes you feel better, makes you look better, makes you do whatever, I've never left since 2009.
Mm. When you were looking to make that transition from lawyer into entrepreneurship, law into even health, wellness, going down them, did you talk to anybody about it? Because I think there are two kinds of guys. It's probably more than two guys, but the guys I'm thinking, they're the ones that are in that position. And I was in that position too. Look, I was also selling insurance for 14, almost 15 years. I started as an entrepreneur, then went back, tail tucked between my legs, saying, I better get a job selling something or doing something that people actually need, with a book of business and residual income and benefits. And I never had any of that stuff until like my 40s, quite frankly. Like I flew that net until late 30s or early 40s. Um, where I'm going is I think a lot of guys are in a similar position. They are lawyers or they're guys like me, and they want to make a change. And the two kinds are one does and the other doesn't. What's the difference between those two guys?
I was lucky. It wasn't a heartbreak transition. Was a lawyer and I really wanted to try something else. So first I went to a family office to be a hybrid. And that was 2008. And it was a bad year to be anywhere near the financial markets. And that caused me to leave and become an entrepreneur. And that was a very supported transition by the important people around me. And the support was try it. This is a good time to try it. You don't have a lot. You can always go back to being a lawyer. I was lucky that I came out of a legal environment where I was at a great company and prior to that a great firm where if I wanted to go back to being a lawyer, I could carry enough of a card to get another legal job. And I that support and sort of a confidence said try it, but it was never this is all. I always had sort of a couple toes in. If this doesn't work, I can go back. I didn't have 100% confidence in myself.
But that's the practical piece also, which is I could always go back. I have a skill, even I have a license. And I think the relationship aspect, is that true also? Where, hey, if you communicate well and you leave things better than you found them, and you're open with people, like, does that leave again possibility open and practicality? Let me go try, but I can try
Always.
responsibly, which I
I,
think is a
I
big.
loved it. I loved maintain. Sorry to interrupt. Like I left a company, public company, and I remember the CEO saying like, he said we've never celebrated someone leaving. but like we understand. We don't like it, but you're young and we understand. And, you know, let's celebrate you because you're someone who we helped grow and we're gonna miss you. And I loved it. And it was to me, it felt great about the relationships. Um, I'm still friendly with the people that I was, early associate with at a law firm. I think that's in a bit in my nature to spend time every day connecting with people. It's natural versus tactical. Um, and then to that practical side, as you're saying that, I would just remembered that I didn't give up my legal license till 2015. I kept paying that and doing those legal credits so that if it ever did fall, I could go back.
Look, I think that stuff's important. I think there's always something that people aren't seeing. And I think that stuff's important to point out. Say, okay, you can hedge a little bit too. There's this notion again that everyone has to quit their job and follow their passion and run to the door, and kind of leave everything else behind. And I don't feel like it needs to be that way. I mean, especially as we get older and have obligations, responsibilities, other things going on, to you can responsibly or practically hedge a little bit. You can be curious and go out and go after something. You don't have to go all scorched earth, like I'm going to completely transform or reinvent myself. And that means everything in my old life has to go out to be replaced, by this new one, this new dream sequence life that I have, because I'm convinced the grass is always, is greener somewhere else, but I don't really know.
There's a real pull for that though. Even as you're saying it now, you're like, yeah, I'm like, that's super sexy.
I was gonna say
I want
afterwards,
to do
it's like
that.
it's
Yeah.
sexy and it plays well, on social media and in masterminds and in chest thumping, public speaking and stuff. But
Yeah.
again, in practicality or in reality, maybe not so fast, on there for guys that are listening to this, thinking about it. Possible, yes. Probable, yes. Responsibly, yes. Irresponsibly, going back to what you said, mortgages, kids, schools, all of these other things. Hey, that's in the bucket too.
Yep.
We got to pay attention to when we're thinking about this stuff.
Yep.
Um, Speaking of talking about it, what do you wish more men talked about openly in middle age? You're about to be, you said you're about to be 50. Is that what you said?
I'm 50. I'm about to be 51.
About to be, okay, I'm 52. So we're right there.
Yeah. That's a great question. Listen, anybody who knows me knows that like I over-index toward talking about my feelings. It's a joke among my friends. Um, and to a certain extent, that drives some reciprocal talk among our friends. But as you get older, again, because of the time you have, the talk among friends is work, family, right? Because most of the time, that's what you need to talk about. When I talk to my best friends a lot, it's what's going on at work and what's going on with the kids. And if I could sort of allocate more time to those conversations, it's like what's going on, right? Because the hardest thing, and with a couple of my really close friends, we have those conversations, but like work, at the end of the day, like you can get those answers. You can figure that out from people who don't know you as well. But family, which I think you probably talk about, but not enough, and like the way you feel, that's what you need to be talking about, especially with the people who you've known since kindergarten or fifth grade or whatever. I mean, I think you're probably the same. Like my best friends, they've been my best friends since fifth grade. And then my other best friends have been my best friends since college. And I've got some new best friends, but they know me really well. So it's probably a stock answer, but I wish people just kind of had more real conversations among men, among my guy friends, or even among, I have a female friend who's, been one of my best friends since high school. And, when we talk, it's got that level of understanding of each other.
Do you think it's easier to talk to women than men? Because I'm listening to you and I don't find it that easy. And I've had long-standing friends and I consider us close. And but when geography plays a role, and you're separated for a while, career paths are different, people's personal life situations are different. You've always got history there. But sometimes it's challenging to like for the depth to keep pace. You know what I mean? Like you can easily go back to the old stories, in the old as opposed to like, hey, like we're 30 plus years removed from that, or 40 plus
Right.
years removed from that.
I mean, I find my anchor relationships are men. The ones where it really hits. And honestly, the thread where it hits is music and movies. We are when I look at if I pulled up my text, even from today, and what's happening in a text message between my closest friends, we're just throwing song lyrics back at each other and laughing about music, or generally like that's our love language, right? It drives real conversation, but we do spend, our sort of back and forth is around things that are reminiscent from growing up or other parts of our lives that are evocative. And for some reason, like you just spent a lot more time with your guys in those eras. So that's the connect. And like I, grew up playing a lot of sports. I went to an all boys sleepaway camp. I lived in college, I lived in a big house, all with a bunch of guys. So there's just a lot of shared experiences. My close female friends, there's a lot of shared experience as well, but just, kind of time in country was with men, and it's just more time together. But I really do cherish my relationships with women in my life. One of them's married to one of my college roommates. I just saw both of them. There was this, we just were all together. It's like this great, similar but different kind of, generally it's like a ribbing, I generally spend most of your time making fun of each other about the past, but um, I guess the depth of conversation is with this sort of handful of people throughout the life.
What are you most excited about now at 50? What is this what you thought it was going to be? What are you excited about? It's kind of a time when I feel like a lot of guys are questioning things or potentially even slowing down. And it seems to me like you're just getting started in a number of things. And maybe I also feel like that because I know you just started something also, with
Yeah.
another mutual friend in there. Like, what are you most excited about?
It's I've been excited lately. I don't know, like life is challenging and good. There's a newness to all kinds of things. In August, I combined my family with a woman that I love and her daughter, and it's and my two boys, and we have a great combination. I still maintain great relationships in my life all over the place. But this combination, I've had my old relationships with my friends and my this and my that. I have a new combined family that's driven all kinds of new relationships. So that's exciting, right? That's from August. And while we've all been together for a long time, that's a new one. I'm excited about that still. I'm obviously excited about new career evolutions. Those allocations are changing again. I'm excited because my boys are, my boys are now my kids. Like we're doing a lot of fun stuff. And Alba, my stepdaughter, is also we're having a good time. We're going skiing. We're doing this. My boys. I didn't play a lot of. I used to play a lot of golf and didn't for a long time. And my boys like golf, so I started playing golf again. Not my most favorite thing to do, but I got 3.5 hours alone with my kids yesterday. You know, listening to music and driving around in golf carts and having a good time. So, that's what I'm excited about. And then I don't know, maybe you're again like I remember my oldest guy's in ninth grade. I remember ninth grade. It's hard to believe I'm sitting at home waiting for my kid to come home. And I remember the boundary pushing, which is a very generous way to describe the stuff we were doing around then. And I'm getting a kick out of it. I have great kids, and they're ninth graders. So I'm just kind of jazzed to be where I am in life.
Hmm. Can you walk me through if you will, and I know it's personal, but the combined family, the new relationship, you know, you get married, you have children, you've been through divorce, you're now excited about this next phase. Like, what did you learn from all of that. Look, I'll tell you, I've been married to 25 years. We've been together almost 30, there. Uh, I guess I understand, or to a certain extent, I see all sides, of this. It's hard to stay together. It's hard to separate. It's hard to start over again. These are the questions I get and the things that I hear from guys. I can speak to what it's like to be married for a long time. A whole lot. Like, I don't know if I would have said, bet the over, on where I am, right now. So, you know, I'm interested again on perspective, on relationships and trust and finding love again and passion and putting children together and families together later in life. I started young and now I feel like I'm older, and we're about to be empty nesters and starting a whole nother chapter right now.
And starting over was very deliberate. This whole process that got us here was very deliberate. We waited a long time to make the introductions. We then were able to start spending time under one roof, not full time. We have a place upstate, a weekend home, and that was how we started getting everybody together under one roof. And then that was over a year of that, almost two, before we then brought us all to our current situation, our current living environment. And we're not always together under the same roof, but it was really deliberate and thoughtful. And there was a lot of open communication among everybody. And it was still like throughout the whole process, it was the last few years, as much of there's like the absolute like joy of being in a new relationship and the fact that you've finally, it's the right word, you found someone post years of transition, which takes a long, took me a long time. There's a lot of like navigation. And I know people who just fell in love, put the families together and said, it's my time and the kids will figure it out, right? And they do. But that's not how we addressed it. We took a really, really long, deliberate time. Maybe we were too deliberate because it worked out probably faster than we thought, but we had talk about it all the time. I know in the beginning I kept asking my boys, like, you okay? And finally they both were like, could you stop? We're good. But I think that just being deliberate was very helpful for me to feel comfortable. Because a big change for me too.
Certainly. Do you feel like you run your life and approach your life similarly to how you run your business and approach your business? Because as you describe it, it's okay, slow, strategic, tactical, deliberate. Again, I go back to practical in here. Like, okay, like those are really, deep, responsible words when you're bringing in like love and passion and finding somebody in relationships, and they're almost business-like.
Yeah, but except that they're found both, yes, they're both run the same, except what you don't see in those discussions is each of them, and the people in my life will laugh when they hear this. Oh, each of them are punctuated with everyday moments of extreme emotional outbursts. Like I spend a good part of my day trying to control my emotions either way. There is the structure, but I'm incredibly emotionally driven. It probably more so than anyone who around me. My partners tolerate my high emotional business sort of perspective, my business attitude. It just happens to live in a structure. In the beginning of the day, I write everything down.
Are you loud? Are you knee jerk? Do you pull it back around? Like I'm really emotional too. I feel like I always have something to apologize for as well, and wear it on my sleeve. Like, what's your emotion like?
Exactly the same as you. I don't ever get angry. You'll never hear me like, I don't use mean words, but I'm super like emotive, emotional. I get into things. I feel things, when we're talking about a deal or an investment, I'm using a lot of adjectives,
Do
and
you
my
take
heart,
personal? Like,
everything's personal. And then I come back and put it in the boxes, you know. But my partners, especially when I was in a structured private equity environment, they have spent their careers in structured financial environments, and I've, done this thing. And the difference there is I overlay a lot of gut, and with gut comes more emotion. So when we talk about the structure, a lot of that is gives me the room to be the way you've described yourself, which is emotional, practical, but it then fits in those boxes. So it's the same at home. Like I'm going to throw my arms around everybody at home, but it's within that practical evolution of everything we've done. But I'm the one who's like very like, I mean, it's a very lovey huggy environment everywhere with every aspect of my life. But yeah, no, I'm certainly not stoic. Anyone in my life would tell you it's like, settle down, guy.
Do you trust your gut? You mentioned, do you trust your gut? Do you second guess your gut? Do you wake up with regret and then have to put it in check, after, like, again, on the emotional kind of tip of a lot of this stuff too. I think a lot of that is connected.
All of it. I trust my gut. I absolutely then second guess my gut. I wake up just about every morning with, the fraud syndrome. My gut's always, not always, my gut is right more often than not, and those things get in the way. There's a couple things that get in the way for me on the downside of gut. I have Superman complex in business. So if it's a bad thing, if my gut says this is not good, my knee-jerk reaction is, but I can fix it. And I think enough times now have learned that if gut says this is not good, listen. And sometimes the fixes get it to a place where it's fixable in a different way, you know, help transition it a different way. You're not the right, this isn't the right structure, this isn't the right person. So, but I find that gut for everyone's got a sense. There's not a single person who doesn't have a gut that's right. It's just where the overlay comes in of what you put on top of it. We're all everyone who does what we do, everyone who has a role that's cerebral and requires some level of intuition has a gut that's part of that, and we all have certain however we overlay it.
What do you do to turn it down? I'm not going to say turn it off because I don't know if guys like us, and I'll lump us together for a second, ever really turn things totally off. But to down regulate, or modulate kind of the work, the family, the life, the multiple levers and things, that we're pulling and doing. Is it an extensive morning routine? Is it an evening routine? Is it like, what do you do for you?
I exercise in the morning. I play guitar for a little while at night because the alternatives, we know what the alter. I don't drink very much. I don't go out late. When I see my friends, I want it to be meaningful. So I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. I generally have a group of people I work out with every day at 5:45, and that gets me in the right head place during the day. And in the evenings, I try to go out a couple nights a week with, whether with couples or with my partner. Um, and she's more social than me, so she's always, okay, come on, we're going. And I try to do something relaxing. But for me, it's the working out. If I miss a couple of days of those morning workouts, I can feel that I'm not doing enough for myself.
I want to talk about, so 5:45 every morning with a group of guys, and
Group
you're
of
all
people,
group of
it's
people,
mixed.
group of people. And again, you're also big family guy, your kids, being around them in there. 5:45, it's hard to wake up. At least it is for me. Okay, I want to go through the excuses, or not even the situations that I hear. That's really early, or I want to be around my kids for breakfast, or what. Again, all these things that are in the bucket. So I want to hear how you see it in terms of okay, because there's always a sacrifice and a trade-off. If I'm going to be up at, meet people at 5:45, that means I'm up at 5. That means it's dark out when I get up. I leave the house ideally before other people wake up. I'm missing something, trading something, if you will, for something else. And then I got to try because I care enough to make it up somewhere else too.
I try to be in bed at 10. So whatever I'm missing out on, it's after 10. And if I go to bed at 10 and I wake up at 5, that's enough sleep in bed at 10.
And I'm also asking like what you tell your kids, like, okay, like, do they get used to the fact, hey, like dad's dad's up and this is what dad does.
Yep. I get home in time to wake them up.
Okay.
So it's actually I don't, it's like a shameless plug for this particular type of workout. It's a gym, but I'm there at 5:45 and I'm home at 6:45 every day, and I'm waking them up and then they're out the door at 7:40. So I don't miss the morning. It's again, it works. I get home, I'm home first, walk the dog, wake the kids, again, that's actually solid rigidity in my life. That's a very,
Which I'm glad you brought that entire thing kind of, back around and landed the plane because there's a plan here. Again, okay, I want to be home for my kids. I can be home for my kids if I go from 5:45 to 6:45. Okay, that's an hour every day. I need an hour, not two, not three, not six. Like okay, I have a lot of decisions to make here. To put a plan together, even for something as simple and again as practical as I want to work out and exercise, it's a priority to me. There's like 7 or 8 other decisions at least that have to go in or choices that have to be made and then adhered to for this to work.
yep,
And that's hard.
totally.
Like I'm saying that in a way like give you a lot of credit for it because it's easier to sleep in. It's easier to go later. And then I want to bring in like how you view success and like what's even your relationship with money. These are all the things that I think of. If I'm successful, why am I still how successful do I need to be to not have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Okay, much do I need to be able to trade this thing back for this thing? Or why couldn't I wake the kids up at 7:45 and get to the gym at 9? And why should my workday now at 50 years old be 11 to 5, if you will?
It's a good question. I don't know what my at 50, I don't know what my relationship is with money right now. It fluctuates. I wish that I was, generally generationally wealthy and able to retire right now. I don't know. Do I want to be soon at some point? Definitely. Do I feel like I might that would I wish I had the flexibility? Yeah. Am I happy where I am? Definitely. Always wish I had a little bit more. Definitely the way we live in New York City there's an absurdity to what's around you. But, as long as you don't count other people's money, you feel pretty good about, where you are.
How do you approach that uncertainty? And I mean that in the matter like also when you make investments, when you advise, when you do these non-traditional things, it's very different from every 2 weeks, somebody deposits a certain amount of money into your account. It's a very different way to live, to go long, to know that maybe if I have a portfolio of businesses, 2 of them out of 10 have to really work.
Yep.
And for me to be a success and for me to have failed, if you will, eight out of the 10, other times. Like,
Changed a lot. I think I used to do I think I used to put a little bit of money into all kinds of my own little venture. I like the idea, put a little bit of money into it, check in. That way, that might bear fruit 10 years later, 7 years later. You get older, your horizon changes a lot. And so I think I'm much more disciplined now. I like to bet on myself and my people around me. I like to look at bigger things in terms of what I invest in. And I do it, I know, either through partnerships, or as part of things that I actually have a bit of a heavier hand in the involvement. So if I jump into developing something as part of something bigger, I'll invest in that. Sometimes I won't make the investment till we've developed it a little bit. I'm more conservative now with my own money than I was when I was younger. And I've probably missed out on some stuff along the way over the last few years because of that new level of conservatism.
are there things that you're doing now at 50 or thinking about doing that you never thought you would do or consider doing?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know, it's a really good question. Some days I wake, the only thing that I think I never thought I would consider doing really was I sort of, when I'm messing around, I do think about teaching a class. I never really thought I was going to be that person who wanted to teach a class, but I have an idea that could be very easily become a seminar. And when I put pen to paper, that isn't with purpose, it seems to be sort of falling into that. I don't know that I could write a book. Your book is excellent. I don't think I can. I don't think I have that discipline. But I see a potentially being able to teach a class someday, which I never would have thought.
Do you think that's about being of service, kind of acquiring and passing along wisdom, maybe legacy? Like, do you think that's some of it?
Yes, yes. I also think it's self-serving. In that I want to be in a room with young people.
Mm.
I want to feel that energy. Like I want to open the floor to questions as much as I want to talk. So yes, I want to share my own experience. I like to say I want to share the scars as much as I want to share the successes, especially with anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. Um, but I really want to be in the room. I want to be on a campus. I want to just, if I can be on a campus and share something and then take that, that's kind of the draw for me.
What's a question you want to be asked? So you're there and you've got this dream now. You're sitting there on the campus, you've got the kids in the room. What's the question you want to be asked?
What's the one class that you would have taken in college that you didn't take?
Mm. What is that? Does that class exist?
It does. Econ. I
Mm.
didn't take econ 1 and 2. I wish I had graduated college with a practical understanding of economics. I had to chase it.
Mm.
I wish
That's
I had
that's
taken
really
more.
good. No, I graduated college, 4 years at Michigan. I didn't take a single class with numbers.
Me neither. My math class was called Ideas in Mathematics.
Mm. So good. And it always stuck with me that I graduated college and there was not a requirement, even for, like, how could there not be a requirement, even for knuckleheads like me, who were looking for the easy way out, especially at 18, 19, that the university didn't have enough foresight to demand that I took at least one class with numbers in it in 4 years,
Exactly.
get a degree. I still to this day find that mind-boggling.
And I couldn't, like, I mean, I didn't have to take it for a grade. I could have audited. I went to a college with one of the best business schools in the country. And I just like didn't, I was too busy. Listen, in college, I majored in being social. It was just a very generous characterization. Um, and then, so yeah, I wish I had taken some more business classes. Well, right now, I wish I could go take a business class.
Mm. Talked about what you were excited about looking forward. What about the other side? You know, challenges. What's the biggest fear? The opposite of excitement, which can also be scary, but like what's the biggest fear you have?
I'm in a fear of failure mode right now. I've got a bunch of new projects, some new partners. I don't know that they think that I have to prove myself as much as I think that I have to prove myself. Learning my way around the dynamics of new people. It's not fully set foundation. So for me, I'm in a moment of just of new starts, and that's a that's always for me a moment of uncertainty, like deep-seated uncertainty. But then also I get pretty psyched by the middle of the day, beginnings of the day.
What do you look for in a partnership?
Communication.
What's the process look like for you? Partnerships are hard, you know, period, personally and professionally. I remember having this conversation with Michael Eisner years ago, when he first invested in one of my businesses. This goes back like 15 years, and I had no other mentor, and I was like sitting there and taking this all in. And then there's this guy who really struggled, if you will, with partnerships. There were books written about, him and partners and relationships, good ones and bad ones that were in there. Um, and I've always thought about that, still like, how do you have partners? What does being a good partner look like? What would I be looking for, in a partner? Could I be selfless enough to for those things again as an entrepreneur, or creative, or with an idea and wanting to execute? Does that require another person that I gotta share all this with? And now I find myself at 52, like desperately wanting that.
I think the sharing, I've always been able to share. I'm not greedy. Not that's a bad word, but not a bad word for this conversation. I've always felt okay sharing economics, glory, whatever it is with partners, um, and being able to sort of take responsibility even more than my share when things don't go well. Um, I love a partner or a group of partners, and it's all communication. I have a couple right now, a couple of longer standing ones that maybe we're not active, and we just communicate constantly. Um, Mornings, check-ins, catch ups. I have a new partner who we check in not intentionally. We check in every morning. There's something to talk about every morning. It makes me feel good. It makes me know every morning that we're communicating about whatever needs to get done, and then I'm not chasing it during or after the day. I know exactly what's expected of me as a partner. So set the expectation. And then the other thing to it earlier, I love the emotional side of partnership. I love a heated debate. I love disagreeing. I always think I'm right, so having a partner who can beat me down a little bit is very, very helpful. And I just thrive. I always think like everybody, there's tomes written about the failure of the co-CEO role. I
Hmm.
really think I could be a co-CEO if there ever was the opportunity with the right person, because I really do, I like that. I feel like I could be like the Dukes trading places. Like I could just, sit and face my partner at a desk
Mm.
with a better level of success than they ended up with.
I appreciate that. Now that I haven't had a partner for a long period of time, and now I do. And I wasn't necessarily, it was interesting that I didn't set out to have a partner in what I was doing right now. Now it's like I'm just writing and I'm just talking, and it's really just about me and where does this go? And then I started getting approached by really interesting men about where is this going to go and what could we do with this? And we want to be involved and invest. So I spent this money on a deck. Like I thought I was going to be like, I don't know what you guys do, but I sort of build a deck, like let's turn this into a business and raise money because guys want to be involved in it. And I went out and I took it to a bunch of these guys who are all great guys, and they all said yes. And then I came home and cried to my wife, saying they all said yes, and I don't think I want it. And I don't think I can accept this responsibility because when I've done it in the past, I've been a minority partner or other shareholders and other deals. It just it just never really went well, for me overall. So I went back and I said, thank you. Can we just be friends? Like, please just be supportive, keep your money. Let's just be friends. It was like the best $10,000 I ever spent on this deck to not collect money from these really good guys that now at least I think I have a fighting chance to remain friendly with versus blowing it up before. But where I was going with this is I had one friend, one guy came back to me and didn't accept. And he's like, no, like, we're gonna do this. You need some support. You need a partner. I want to have some fun in my life. Be involved with this. I'm right where you are. And it just shocked the shit out of me to get that response and that reaction from somebody who genuinely really wanted to be a part. And to your point, loves contention. Like, hey, let's just beat the shit out of each other, and it changes nothing in our relationship, and do it and have somebody really on unequivocally on your side. And it just ended up where it's like, okay, so now I have this partner. And like you, I wake up and I walk my dog in the morning and we check in like every morning about all this different stuff. And I'm like, wow, did it really take me like 52 years to be able to walk my dog at 8 o'clock in the morning and have somebody that I give a shit and that I feel gives a shit about me just to talk to about whatever we feel like talking to or about, that morning?
Yep.
And this morning we talked
Yeah,
for
you're back.
45 minutes before the call that we were supposed to have with some other people, like at 10. And it was like, wow, okay. I I guess that's practical to use your word.
Yeah.
It's productive and I think it's practical.
He's got your back. Nice to know, you know?
It is. And it's a full circle way of saying also that like, hey, I think that's important for guys right now. I think a lot of what you've shared about personally and professionally, like everything from finding love again to finding business partners to looking at deals to spending quality time with our kids. Like I think all of this stuff is like, okay, like that's the meat on the bone, that we've got to pay a lot of attention to.
Yep. I agree.
What do we miss? Again, you're the professor now. Okay, you're teaching the class.
I don't know,
What,
man. That
what
was
did
pretty
we miss
good.
on things that are that let's say you're not talking to students right now, you're talking to a room full of middle-aged guys.
Oh man. I
Those
mean,
guys are 35, or 39, and they're seeing 40 around the bend. Because I think that was a big one. I don't know if 49 even to 50 around the bend is the same thing. But like, what avatar do you think is the pivotal one?
it's so funny. The thing that comes to mind that's so totally odd to think about, and I'm not making any judgment. The thing that I would say has changed the best for me is cutting back drinking. Like I only have a couple of drinks these days when I go out. We laugh. I have one drink and a sip. It's a total waste of money. And I think that's made a huge difference. And I never was a huge drinker. I never was a big go out and get really drunk. I mean, when I was younger, there were a bunch of people who'd be laughing. Like my college friends would laugh when I said that. Like I was your average. But in my 30s and early 40s, like we'd stay out late. We'd have enough drinks that the next day wasn't at full potential. And I had children, you know? The biggest thing I wish I had started earlier was just being able to wake up on a Saturday morning and on a Sunday morning and be great, on a Friday, whatever it was, like that would be my first practical piece of advice is you're not missing anything in life by starting to cut the poison a bit. Again, without any judgment at all, just a practical, like I never felt better making that change about 4 or 5 years ago. That's one. And two, just have fun. Like life is heavy, right? It gets heavy. Parents get sick. Work starts to get really difficult. Your friends or you end up in huge marital problems. Like stuff happens with your kids. Like if it's not really important, don't stress it.
Great stuff, man. Really, really good.
By the way, I'm gonna go listen to all this and take my own fucking advice. You know?
Ah, there's so many things that you have said on this where I'm biting the inside of my lip a little bit as you're saying it because it's exactly that. And that stays in. That stays in this. Okay. We're still on the record right now.
Good, oh, for
Because,
that, without a
yes,
doubt.
because I did that this morning too. Went on this like 10-minute diatribe about how I got to start practicing what I preach. I got to start taking my own advice. I got to start listening back to these coaching calls. I got to, actually walk the walk, to so much like shit, read my own fucking book or whatever the hell like in there and going, okay, follow the advice you give your kids, all of these other things that are out there because like it's true. I think a lot of us, and this is not like in an egotistical kind of way, like we kind of know the answers to the test. Doing it is really hard.
Yep.
Having the conviction and the clarity to follow through and do it. Like you say it, I bite the inside of my lip and I nod and I go, Jay, very smart, very successful, very practical. That makes a whole lot of sense. I could do that.
What I spent an hour laying out was my best day. That's me at my best. All the things we just talked about. If I can hit all those points about my life, I did a good job. That's everything that all those things is the me I really try to be. And I literally will go back and remind myself of all the stuff we talked about today because it's an ideal, right? There's so much that I actually do. The structured stuff about work and all that. I mean, I'm looking at, I write it all down. Like I actually am very rigid in a lot of that stuff so I can balance. But the personal stuff, the emotional stuff, the this, that, like, you know, I'm gonna check in with all my friends when we get off. I'm gonna make sure I start to go, make sure I'm practicing what I preach. But those are ideals.
But last quick, because now that made me think like, are you a time blocker? Like to that? Because now you go through, listen to all this back and go, okay, I struggle sometimes with, hey, overestimating what I can do in a day, underestimating what I can do in a year. That rhythm and that cadence. You want to jam pack each day and feel like you're, the high performer and do all these things. And jamming it all into each day can be exhausting and draining and everything too. Are you a time blocker?
No, I'm a list maker.
Mm.
I just make a list every morning and I do my best to get stuff out. I do try, I don't block time with intention, but there's parts of the day. I tried to be intentional, like the morning was for this and the middle, but it just goes awry. So I just the first thing I do every morning is write out the list. Generally it's just turning back a page and pulling forward. But I'm a list maker more than a time blocker.
So I am too. I tried time blocking. I struggled with it for a variety of different reasons. And I am a list maker too. And then what I do is similar to, I pull like 3 personal and 3 professional things over each day.
Yeah.
I made this pad with like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like on it. And I pull over 3 personal, 3 professional that I think are the priorities for the day. And if I can hit those 6 things in total, and most days they're actually the same. Like on the personal side, especially, they're like the same 3 things. Walk my dogs, go to the gym, do something, whatever is there. But like I just find that repetition of writing it down and moving it over by priority helps me. And once we get beyond a certain capacity, 3 of them, that's when I start to shut down.
Some of them for me are like pay bills, and then I start to put in like the due date. Like, all right, dummy, like this is becoming. There's actually a due date coming up on that credit card bill. Um,
But this is what I think, again, the minutia is what people miss. The macro of like how we do it and why we do things that we do and everything, like that's kind of easy. Like I think what gets missed is like you actually are sitting in an office right now. And you got to get off the phone with me because it's past an hour and you've
yeah,
got other shit to do. Okay. And on that list is minutia. On that list is not rainbows and unicorns and every fantastic, amazing deal. And like it's a lot of minutia. And somebody like the successful people actually do the work when no one's watching and they tend to the minutia, which
yep,
enables them to get, I think, the bigger stuff done.
yep,
Like this is the fun, at least for me, this is the fun part. The hard part is going to be getting off, recording the intro, the outros, uploading this thing to a portal, doing all the stuff that like as entrepreneurs and creators, we don't want to do. But small business entrepreneurs take out the trash as well as, as well as be the CEO.
I have to write something I have to sit down and write something this afternoon. Focus for a significant amount of time and write something, and like that's a task.
Mm.
And that's going to be a good part of my afternoon. And it's going to be that's work. And
Do you
so
use ChatGPT or anything yet?
I try not to. I do. Oh no, sorry, I do. But for stuff that actually has to be from me, I do it. I use ChatGPT for anything related to work.
Are you a writer or a speaker? Meaning like people say that I'm a writer. I put out a book. We do 6,000 words every Sunday and everything. I actually still tell them I don't write. I just talk. I dictate everything and then have it transcribed. I really struggle with a keyboard.
I'm a speaker to the point where I would be more than happy to get up and speak to an audience right now with an outline. I love to write and I love to edit more than anything. But that aging attention span is difficult for me. So I'll write for 10 or 15 solid minutes and then I'll have to take a walk, a break.
Maybe that's what it is, but I just actually dictate everything and then have it transcribed. Like I struggle with writing, like actual writing. So it appears that I've written it. Technically, I've written it, but what I really did was speak into a recording app, have it transcribed, and then I love the edit process too.
Yeah, I love editing.
Yep. This is fun, man. We could do this for longer, but I know
I loved it.
I know you got to go. I'm just always fascinated by how people do things. So,
It's
like,
fun.
thank you for indulging me in all of this. Let me quick, anything in particular you want me to make sure that I either mention or promote or new venture or anything at all? Anything you want to make sure I stay away from? Just so that I'm clear.
No, I think there's not much. Maybe kill the Trading Places reference since it's an outdated movie. um, but no, I think the nice thing is it's a fresh slate moment for me. You know, Ciano and I just did this fun thing. We'll see where that one goes, but this is fun this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing it and hearing it.
Good. Well, listen, I'm excited for you both. You're both awesome guys, and I think it's really cool to see you guys coming together and doing something cool. And yeah, Jay's become a good friend, and I'm a big admirer of his as I am of yours. So if there's anything I can do to support, by all means, man, let me know.
Same to you. Same to you, man.
You got it. All my best, Jay. Thank you so much.
You too, buddy. I appreciate the time. This was fun. Anytime you want to do stuff like this, I love it.
Deal. And listen, if there's stuff you want to talk about or you want to contribute or anything you want to do, like in sharing that wisdom, you know, and being of send it, man. We'll put it out there. You know, that's another big thing here. Is not just these individual conversations that we have and do, but you know, sharing that wisdom, something that's happening in your life, anything you want to do, us getting contributors that and sharing stories is you know, is helping a lot of guys.
Perfect. Awesome.
So doors always open. All right, man.
Thanks, buddy.
You
See
well.
you.